Hey there, it's Dr. B again. I'm here with Pink, and I think I'm going to have to get her own show and her own channel because she keeps wanting to be on video. So, yesterday I spent some time, a little bit, talking about selfish, and if you're really a selfish person, and I touched on guilt a little bit. I want to move on today, and I want to talk about relationships, and specifically how having weak or underdeveloped executive function skills and strategies can impact your relationships. Because for all of us, we're in at least one or two relationships. We're in a relationship with ourselves, first and foremost. We are in a relationship, like I'm in a relationship with Pink, and skills do affect that. And we're in relationship if we're married, we're in relationship if we are working with coworkers, we're in a relationship if we have friends, we're in relationship if we belong to various communities. Relationships are everywhere in our life unless we live as a hermit, which most don't, but some do. So I felt this was an important topic to talk about, so let's get into it. So if I think about the executive function skills that I assess in my students, and I think about that in relationship to relationships. So first, consider what it would be like, and if this is true for you, where you can't inhibit what comes out of your mouth. I talk about it as the toad, blip, it just comes out. And we don't inhibit, and we say, and then we wished we didn't, and we can't take it back, and we can't do a do-over because it's already out there. That's the lack of the ability to inhibit when you're talking to people, when you're with your friends, when you're in any relationship. It's an executive function skill. The next one is the ability to shift. There's many things I could talk about regarding shifting, like the people that are rapid shifters that shift and shift and shift and shift all day long. And maybe in conversations with friends, family, they're shifting. They're changing the topic and shifting and shifting and shifting and shifting. And it's like, enough, can't we just stay with one thing? Might even be that in a discussion. They shift from this to this to this to this, and nothing ever really gets talked about deeply and gets resolved because they're constantly shifting. But the flip side of that shifting skill, that executive function skill, is that some people have a very hard time shifting. They're not the rapid shifters. And so they might get in a relationship and maybe they need to leave that relationship, whether that relationship is work-related, whether it's friend, personal, intimate, whatever it might be. It's a relationship that isn't working, let's say, that they need to leave. But they don't have well-developed skill to shift, which means to move from one thing to another. And so they can't, they stay. And it isn't good for them. But they don't have that skill to shift, and so they're stuck. You could see this in so many other areas, but I don't want to go off on a tangent because I want to stay with the topic of relationships. So another executive function skill is the ability to monitor yourself when you're in relationship with others. To be able to see you, to be able to see how you're behaving, but also to see how others are responding to you. Like, let's say you're in a discussion with someone and that person is like backing up and moving away from you because it's so intense what you're saying, or the language or how you're saying it, or your energy, and they're moving away. But you're not self-monitoring because you don't have that skill very developed. And so you don't see that. And they move away and you move closer, and they move away and you move closer. And they just keep moving away because they're trying to create more space. because they need that space. Other than saying to you, hold it, back up, I need some space, which most people aren't necessarily that blunt, and some are. I know I've had to do that with people before that didn't respect my personal space. But again, we wouldn't need to have that kind of interaction if we could self-monitor, if we had that skill, and be able to see how people are responding. If people seem confused by what you're saying, that look on their face of confusion, where if you're monitoring yourself and you're monitoring you with another person, you'd see that and you'd stop and you'd ask them, is that not clear what I'm saying? Maybe I should say it differently, that you would notice that. Another is your ability to regulate your emotions instead of all the huge highs and lows and all the exaggerated emotions that can often come with ADHD or underdeveloped executive function skills. And so some people talk about it as being in control of their emotions, not having meltdowns, not being in overwhelm, not being so controlled or controlling. Again, this is a skill. This can be learned. Then we move to other things that can affect relationships, such as initiating plans. Maybe you have a friend who's always making plans for the two of you, and they're asking you, why don't we trade off? Why don't you make plans occasionally? That means you've got to get started. You've got to think about the things they enjoy, you enjoy, things that you could do together. Then you have to be able to plan. You have to be able to schedule. You have to be able to follow through. You have to be able to prioritize your time and other things that you need to do on any given day so that you could actually have time to be with that person and do what it is that you were going to schedule or did schedule to do. You got to have a good working memory so that you remembered that you even scheduled that and committed to do that with that person. These are all executive function skills. Can you imagine just for a moment, and maybe you don't have to imagine because maybe I'm describing your life, and if it's as bad as I'm describing in all these skills, and there's plenty more, I'm really sorry. But I also want you to know there's real hope because these are skills. There aren't any skills in pills. It's not like taking medication, which many of us do, is going to give us these skills. These need to develop, they need to come online, and they don't come online just automatically because we get older and become an adult. It doesn't work like that. They need to be developed, stimulated, specific things that will develop them. And yes, we can, and it doesn't matter what age. This is such a critical, important thing that I really want you all to hear. I really do. Because more and more people are coming in to the group that I have on Facebook, the Living Beyond ADHD group. More and more of the people that are coming in are in their 50s and 60s and 70s and beyond. And they're either just now getting a diagnosis, just now coming to know, coming to terms with all this stuff that's been going on throughout their whole life and is explaining so much in hindsight. And nowhere along the way did anyone else notice and monitor and say, hey, I think you're missing a few skills. Let me teach you. You can learn these. It's not so hard. And I know I grieved for a lot of the things that didn't come to me awareness or skill set earlier in life. But at 68 years young, you know, I can't turn back the clock. I'm not getting that time back. That time has been spent. But I have a lot of good years ahead of me, which I hope you all have as well. I really do. And that means that we have time to become better and better versions of who we are. Not that what's inside of us as the human being isn't good as it is. I'm talking about the human doing and how we function in the world and what we're able to do as an expression of the human being inside of us. So to wrap up today, I guess coming back to the topic of the impact of weak or underdeveloped executive function skills impacting relationships, first and foremost with yourself. Because if you can't make decisions and you can't prioritize and you can't monitor tasks and you can't follow through and you can't step back and get perspective and you can't, all these things that I've been talking about here today and in other live videos, if you can't effectively do those, what quality of life can you expect? We all need to be able to do these things to some degree, some more so than others, to have a quality of life that we can enjoy. So keep coming back, watch the videos. I'm doing them every day to the best of my ability. I've got some exciting stuff coming up as we get closer to the end of the year that I'm going to be telling you about. And for now, just keep coming back. Post under the videos. I'd love to know about your journey, comments about your skills, lack of skills, relationships, challenges that you have in your relationships. I would really love to get to know you through my doing these live videos and posting these kind of questions or posing them in the video in the hopes that you'll comment and maybe even share my videos with other people, family, friends, other groups that you're in if they allow it, so that you can share what I'm sharing here with others. I would greatly appreciate that if that's something you'd care to do and it's okay for you to do. And if not, then I'm doing this for you, the people watching on my page and in my group. I'll catch you all tomorrow. That's what I got for today. Bye for now.